All right. How did the assignment go yesterday? Pretty easy. All right. You don't know how to find symmetrical to a... Okay. Graphs are dumb? All right. Yes. Parabolas? The hyperbola? We'll work on it. All right. Today we are going to work on inverse functions. No. Inverse functions. We've done inverse functions before. Let me show you an example. F of x equals, let's say, x squared plus 1. And if I want to find the inverse function of this, what I'm going to do is and the inverse function, by the way, looks like this, with a negative 1 on it. Negative 1 right here. F to the negative 1 of x. That's the inverse function. If we're going to find the inverse function, we're going to make f of x equal to y. That's the first thing we do. That's the first step. Second step, we are going to switch our x's and y's around. X equals y squared plus 1. Notice how I switched my x's and y's around, okay? Third step is going to be solve for y. I'm going to solve for y. So in this case here, I'm going to bring my 1 over, so it's x minus 1 equals y squared. I'm going to square root both sides, and the square root of x minus 1 equals y. Now I'll replace that with my f prime of x, and I can say my inverse function to f of x is the square root of x minus 1. Not in this case here. So that's going to be your inverse function. All right? Remember doing that last year? You remember doing that before? What's that? I believe we did it through geometry. Did we do? Or was it algebra? Was it with me? Yeah, I didn't have it with me. That's what I was going to say. Then you would have had it. Then you would have had it in geometry. Okay. Did we do it this year? I don't remember. Okay. So the inverse function. So the inverse function of this is this. Now what does it look like when we graph it? That's what we're going to need to find out. Okay? Was it in here? Okay. See how my days run together and my classes run together? I don't remember. Exactly. That's what I mean. All right. Y equals x squared plus... Oh. Sure, I can show you. You want me to do that instead? Okay. Get rid of this. Leave page. Go into here. Documents. Thought I had it in documents here. Oh, I know where I have it. No, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. My desktop, where'd my Leona? Oh, shoot. I'm thinking I'm in the wrong darn thing here. All right, it wouldn't be just. It would just be under documents. I think I had a graph that I would pull up. No, I don't think so. Right there, that's the Excel document. Just draw it. I suppose I could do that too. I had a nice graph. It filled up the whole thing, and it looked really good. All right. Oh darn. All right. Okay. If I was going to graph y equals x squared plus 1, pay attention. If I was to graph this, I'd make a T. All right? I would call this x. I would call this y. First one I'd use would be 0. If x is 0, then y is 1. So I'd come over here. X is 0. My y is 1. Be right there. Next one I'd put in there would be a 1. And this would be 2. So if my x is 1, this would be 2. Next one I put in there would be a negative 1. It would also be 2. Negative 1 up 2. If I continued on down with this, bless you. If I continued on down with this and I use 2, if I went 2, then it would be up to 5. And if I used negative 2, it would also be 5. Negative 2 up to 5. Take a look at what's happening with my graph. Okay, I'm making my parabola. Do I have to graph anymore? Do I have to find any more than this? No, I really don't, because I see what's happening. Now let's take the next one. Well, hold on. We're gonna take the inverse function. We're gonna take the inverse function, which was y equals the square root of x minus 1, right? It's gonna turn. What happens on the square root? What's the family of graphs with the square root? It goes over here, and it goes like this, right? And if we did the plus or minus on here, and actually I think you're probably right when you said that, Kaylee, if we do the plus or minus on here, we would get it going this way. All right. So how I got it? Okay. If x, I got my x and y. If x equals 0, this isn't going to work, is it? We can't have x equals 0 in here because this would be a negative number. So we can't even use 0. That's not there. If we put 1 in for x, then this is 0. Y is 0. If we put 2, actually let's go with a number that we can do square root of. What? 10. Put 10 in here. Then we would come up with 3. But remember, this would be a plus or minus 3 if we use it like that. So if we went out to 10 and we went down to 3, that's where our point should have came, is down here. 10, we should have went up to 3 here. That's where it should have came through up here. Okay, we can start making our parabola that way. I used something that I could get an even number in here. 3? Yeah, we could have used 3 also. I didn't even think 3. Because 3 would have been, if we would have went to 3, we should be here at 2, right? Plus or minus 2. So actually it's going like this. Okay? All right. Yeah, we came up with 1 also. You're so good. Why don't you teach this? You want to teach this? You can teach it. So we put that there. Then it's just 1, isn't it? It's right down here. And it's right up here. But you know something? I want you to teach this class. He is a smart cookie. Yeah. Oh, anyway, here's what I want you to notice what happens on the inverse function. But this isn't the only thing that we can look at as far as inverse goes. What if we had, I had some examples here. Oh yeah. What if we had y equals x to the third? What does this look like? What does x to the third look like? Hurt yourself already? Just thinking of it? If x equals 0, y is 0. If x equals 1, y equals 1, right? What about for negative 1? Negative 1. X cubed, negative 1 cubed is negative 1. What happens to our graph here? We went 2, it would be 8, right? Somewhere way up here, we can't even get to it. So here's what ends up happening. It looks like this. Okay? That's what you're going to get out of an odd exponent, right? This is part of the family of graphs. Now, if we did the inverse function of this, what would that look like? It would be y equals the cube root of x. Let's see, if we put 0 in here, we would be 0, right? So it's going to come through this origin. If we put 1 in here, it's going to be 1, right? 1, 1. But what if we put negative 1 in here? What's the cube root? What's the cube of negative 1? Negative 1. What happens when we put 2 in here? Or let's take cube root. Let's put 8 in here. 2. So if we go over 8, it's going to be up 2. And if we go negative 8, it's going to be negative 2. 8, negative 2. All of a sudden, our line looks like this. Okay? What did it do? It turned it sideways. The same thing as what we did with the parabola on x squared. He's taking an exam. It's running it sideways, okay? Here's the interesting part. What if we made this negative? Yeah. No, it's not. What are our points? We still got 0, 0, right? But at 1, it's negative 1. At negative 1, it's 1. It goes the other way. It actually goes this way here. Getting kind of funky, isn't it? Should we do it on the Desmos and do it with different colors? You're going to be doing inverse function and graphing them. Okay? Y equals x cubed. All right, let's do the next one. Can we even do a cube root on this? Actually, we can. We can. Here's how you do it. Y equals x, and I'm going to do this one, but I'm going to do 1 divided by 3. Right? 1/3 is the same thing as a cube root. And then I'm going to take this and say y equals let's do a negative x in there. Negative x to the 1 divided by 3. See how our graphs have moved around and flipped? And what if we did a y equals negative 1/3? Where would it be? What would it be? What's that? A negative x cubed. What would it be? What? That's right. It's going to flip this red one. X cubed. See that? We're very symmetrical. Because then, well, negative exponent would put it on the bottom. So if I put that here, make another line. Y equals x to the negative 3. That's fraction. That's good. All right. You get it. You get an idea of what's happening, right? No. No. Oh boy. All right. Here's what I want you guys to do. (13 through 25 odds). 13 through 25 odds. Let me explain something here, though. You are a weirdo. 13 through 25 odds, and that's on page 130. For 19, 21, and 23, don't tell me if it's a function or not. I just want you to be able to do the inverse and graph it. All right? So this is page 130. No, we didn't have to. 19, 21, and 23. They say tell me if the inverse is a function or not. Don't worry about it. I just want you to do the inverse, and I want you to graph it. All right? But I want you to not use Desmos other than check your graph. I want you to graph it on your paper. All right? Show me the T with the X and Y, because if I check your assignment tomorrow, I won't check your assignment tomorrow. If I check your assignment Monday, I'm going to look and see if you did the T's. X, Y. On Monday.